Hello everyone, who is this bodiless voice that you are watching? It's not the person that you see on the screen right now, but I just noticed at the very last moment that I was out of frame. The way that I had positioned my camera was cutting the little hair I have, so we don't want to have that. Welcome everyone to this second day of PNSQC, the Portland Northwest Software Quality Conference. Yeah, got it all. And I'm super happy to have here with me Julia Pottinger.
Yes.
I pronounced it right?
Pottinger, yeah.
Pottinger. Okay, I always have to ask because otherwise I'll chop and butcher last names and names. She was the keynote speaker opening today the conference with an awesome session. But before we get into those details, Julia, welcome very much.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure, and I'm super happy and thankful that you agreed to come and do these shenanigans with me. But well, for the ones that do not know you, I have seen you here and there in the QA communities. What's up with you? What do you do, Julia? And what you've been up to?
So I am Jamaican. I live in Jamaica, I work in Jamaica,
Cool.
Caribbean island. I am the head of training and development at QualityWorks, and that means that I am in charge of the learning, growth, career development, training sessions of the persons that work there, also persons that want to work in QualityWorks. So we do boot camps where that's for persons that are interested in joining tech. They can come get to know more about what testing is, and we can get them started in the career. So we are also going to be doing one on test automation, which is web UI test automation. So that's going to start on Saturday. Application period has already closed for that one, but it's going to be really good. It's the first, something that I've wanted to do for a couple of years, but it takes a lot of effort to put together these boot camps. So, but we're here now, and it's going to be good.
Congratulations. Little question, are these boot camps free or
Yes.
charged?
So
They are free?
Yeah, they're free.
Oh,
it's a part of what we do. They're mostly for Jamaicans at the moment. We have done some for US persons. We may open it up next year, but for this year we wanted to focus a bit on Jamaica. So we'll see what happens next year, because a lot of persons have been messaging me like, I live here, I want to attend. So we'll see how best we can open that up.
It's in person.
It's online, virtual.
Online. So there are no problems, borders and stuff.
No problems with borders, but because I'm Jamaican and
You're promoting.
Yeah, I'm promoting Jamaica, and there are a lot of Jamaicans that don't have the opportunities to get into tech compared to like the rest of the world. So I wanted to focus on Jamaica first too, because that's special to me, to get persons more into that first, and then we can see about other parts of the world.
No, that's a very great course of action, trying to help people, help your people.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, I can relate a little bit to that. And it's great that you're trying to do these efforts. And it's very curious to me, how did you end up like deciding to do that or doing that, like wanting and trying to help?
Because I like helping people. It's always been a passion of mine to like advocate for the persons that I feel aren't being treated correctly or don't have the opportunities that they should have. It's always been a passion area of mine. I also like to teach. So when I was younger, I wanted to be a teacher.
Cool.
That was one of the first things that I saw. I was like, okay, I wanted to be a teacher. But then later on, I switched to tech. So this kind of puts together both of those interests, tech and teaching, into one.
It's interesting how you gave a twist to that. Why didn't you stay at the teacher thing, may I ask?
Salary, but also...
Okay, oh wow, that's an important point,
but
yeah.
also, I think I switched from I was like 16. When I was 16, I got introduced to programming. I did a course in high school, and I learned Pascal, and I fell in love with what I could do. So all the things, all the applications that I've been using, I could create those things. And so that for me changed my mind about the career path that I wanted to do, because I didn't know anybody because growing up, I'm from like a rural area in Jamaica, so like the options in terms of careers are kind of limited. You just see a doctor, you see a nurse, you see a lawyer. So I wasn't aware that there were programmers. I wasn't really aware that I could be doing that until I took that course, and I was like, okay, cool, this is something that I'm interested in. And then I started to research like what are the different career opportunities that I could do in that field. And then I think I knew one person that was doing programming in university, and I talked to them and they gave me some advice on like what courses I can take, what universities I could apply to. And so because of that course, it opened up my eyes to different possibilities, and it really piqued my interest.
That's really interesting because one of the other like lines of thought or topics that I wanted to go on with you here are around women in testing, in coding, and getting close to this type of science areas, professions, and tasks that we can do. And I was going to ask, like, what brought you into it, but you already kind of stepped ahead. But it's really cool, and it shows me that it's a key element to put it in front of the people.
Yeah, exposure.
Yeah.
Letting them see what's available without restricting it. And I have to give my mother a lot of credit because she didn't. I wanted to be a teacher. She was, okay, cool, I'm good with that. I then wanted to be a journalist. She was like, oh, cool, let's pursue that. And then I wanted to be computing. And even though she didn't understand what that entailed, she never for a moment said to me, maybe you shouldn't do that. She was like, okay, let's try it out. She's always believed in me. She's always seeing that I should try something first. So if you are a parent or a supporter of somebody that wants to try different things, allow them to like get the exposure to it first, because that's how they can determine whether they like it or they're going to be good at it.
That's really interesting because not only you walked into those opportunities, you found them, but you got support at home. And that's another question that I wanted to do, because I'm sure your decision, like switching from that dream in teaching and pedagogical endeavors into, no, I'm going to try this computer thing. This was it Pascal? Did I understand?
Yeah,
well?
that was the very first language I learned, Pascal.
Wow, cool. So, did you feel any like social pressures or any uncomfortable things that may have gotten you away from that path, or were you happily supported all the time?
Not really. I'm not a social person, so I was more of a have my head in books reading type of person. So maybe it would have happened if I was social, but I don't know. It never really happened to me in that way. Like as soon as school ended, I was at the library reading a book. So I didn't really interact with a lot of persons in that way. What I did notice though was that because computing is sometimes made out to be this big hard thing, persons sometimes shy away from being technical.
Yeah.
So they feel like they disqualify themselves before they even try. So even when I went to an all-girls high school.
Okay.
So for the comparison between male and female wasn't there for me. Because it was all females and it was a prominent high school, everybody was expected to do well. And so having a computer course, we've been learning about IT from early on. So like for me in Jamaica, when I see persons talking about not getting that opportunity, that wasn't my scenario, because that was we've always been learning about IT in school, and there's this push in Jamaica for technology. It maybe not has gotten as far as we want it to, but it's in schools, persons learn about it. And for my all-girls school, you did have that option. A lot of persons selected all sciences, where they did chemistry and biology and that sort of thing. I'm not that type of person. So yeah, I think maybe where I saw the more males in tech started in university. When I looked around in my class of 30, it was maybe 2 or 3 females.
Oh.
But for me, because I went to an all-girls school, I didn't notice that. It wasn't something that was noticeable for me. I more saw it in university. But it wasn't a problem for me because I was really good at coding. So no one ever looked at me and like, I don't think you're technical. That has never been my scenario. I was always at the top of my class in coding,
Cool.
so I've never really experienced that.
I mean, starting your IT path or quest with Pascal, I understand why you didn't even have any troubles afterwards. Like, you had the gears already turning in the right direction to be the best, right?
Yeah, in a sense. It took a lot of work because I think where it took a lot of work was in terms of I came from very poor backgrounds, so I didn't. When I was doing computer science at university, I didn't have a computer.
Oh, that's a
So
challenge, yeah.
so that was where challenge came for me because when I had assignments, I had to wait until the computer lab was free at the university to do my assignments and get my work in, and that limited the amount of time because persons who had computers at home or had a laptop, they would have been able to leave school and go home and get their work done. That was the opposite for me. I had to stay behind at school just to try and see when. Always checking the lab timetable to see when labs were free because it's a computing course. Your very first course is programming 1. You're learning how to write Java programs and all of that stuff. So that's where the difficulty was for me in terms of resources and finances.
That's super interesting because, you again keep hitting my questions. I was like, how did you get around that? How did you solve the computer situation? But
I eventually got a computer, but it wasn't the best. It was this really big, bulky Dell with the battery outside, like hanging off it. But it really helped and I had that computer for a really long time because it made things easier for me to do my code. And even though I had those situations, I was still excelling in what I was doing because that was my way out of poverty. That was my way to make a better life for myself and for my family.
it's really interesting because it speaks as well a lot about your own perseverance that you wouldn't give up. Like, I don't have a computer, where can I find some time to get one? Or even if it's an old one. And I mean, for coding and starting to learn that, you don't need like an airplane or something super powerful. And it speaks a lot as well on some of the topics that you were presenting today at the keynote. I'm starting to kind of see how things align and why you strive for some of the things that you have been doing. And for the people watching, could you give us like a glimpse? I already experienced it, I already saw it, but what was your keynote about opening for the second day? A woman in test, a representative, persevering, opening a keynote. What was your keynote about?
So it was about how to create a culture of learning and how that improves quality. So it talks about what a culture of learning is. So an environment where persons are encouraged to learn, they're given the time to learn, the budget to learn, and it's a part of their everyday life. Leadership is in it, the team is in it, and it talks about types of learners. So I'm a visual learner, I like to read. There are different persons that maybe like to see images, there are persons that like to do things hands-on, and there are persons that are auditory learners, so they learn by hearing. So identifying the type of learner that you are, the type of learner that the persons in your companies are is important, and then trying to have a good learning culture. So learning is accessible to everybody, it's not like restricted, there's like a budget given, it's like standardized but also fun. So you can do scavenger hunts, you can do like crossword puzzles, different things to make learning more interesting and get to everybody. I also talked about like a plan in terms of how you can create that culture of learning in your organization. I think the talk will probably be shared, hopefully it is. And so in creating that learning organization, there are certain steps that you go through, activities that you do. So we went into all of that detail.
It was a talk, I was going to say a keynote opening, but in general, I mean, I'm not diminishing the almighty keynote of the conference, but it was a talk that, on one hand, I have been dealing with, opened my eyes, and I was smiling through it and like saying, this is really important for us to tackle. One first thing that for me is outstanding that you're saying is to give in the organization, or I would say as well, like as a personal rule, give time and budget. And that is something that many places do not consider, where then when am I going to grow, get better,
Yeah.
improve? And any recommendations on that line?
So, you can't give all the time in the world. So I did talk about how you balance learning on the time given from the company, if any, but also your own personal time, because the company at the end of the day has to make profit to keep in business. So there's only so much time that they can give you without starting to lose money. So if you're a leader in an organization, find out what that time is. Where I work, we give one Friday each month at the end of the month. So you can start with something like that. Also budget, so there can be a training budget per person. So it can be $1,000 a year. They can decide what they want to do with it. They can either buy courses or they can go to a conference. So you can decide how much budget you can give. Yeah, you can give per person. So just think about it. Give it instead of having persons have to ask. Because sometimes persons find it really hard to ask. Like even though they need it, it's like the fear of rejection. They just don't ask.
Yeah, there are multiple elements there, because I love what you say to budget also the time, because I've seen and been at many organizations that do not even like have in the picture like learning time, growing time. It doesn't matter, and I do agree, you have to generate and be kind of profitable so that they can pay you.
But having a good learning culture does help you to be profitable, because the better people are, the greater the quality of the work that they do, the better their productivity. Innovations are going to improve, retention of employees.
Yeah.
So it does help the bottom line, the money, but it's just you have to view it in that way and see how that can also happen. So it's like an investment into your employees and it will be returned.
It's a little bit like most organizations want to see quick buck or that they have immediate returns. But with these type of practices, in the long term, I think there are better organizations, better people, happier, and as you say, very even thrilled to come back to the office. And there were some things that you were mentioning, right? That there were like scavenger hunts or some other activities that can or can be non-related to the work, to QA. Even had to pop the questions like, what do you do outside of just work stuff? And have you seen like employees, co-workers coming excited about it? Today is the day of the activity.
So the persons are really excited. They also give suggestions about topics that they want to see next that would help impact them. So as you mentioned, your trainings don't just have to be focused on work, because as I said, we're multifaceted. Life is so big and wide and vast, and sessions that I've done have included things like how to buy a house, how to do pension, how to
personal finance,
health insurance, budgeting, create career goals, which isn't about a specific tech topic or what's new in the industry, but it does help you as a whole human being to have a better life, which impacts everything that you do, how happy you are, how fulfilled you feel. So all of those things work together for a well-rounded employee. Don't just think about work, because there's so much to life than work.
It's and I have lived through that personal experience. You have those access to not only company-sponsored Udemy's and platforms where you can learn. And I remember like how to produce a video, how to stream stuff, how to smoke beef, and things that at your personal life will enrich you. And as you say, I love it that you say it closes the circle. You're a whole person, better employee at the company.
And some companies offer like therapy sessions, so they may pay for a certain number of therapy sessions. They may also give you certain perks, like big companies maybe give you gym membership. So it's about the person or the employee as a whole rather than just what they can do in work.
It's something that even at the company that I work for right now, there were book sessions and focusing on personal wellness, which personally opened my eyes to multiple things and started to grow in different areas, not just IT, performance, programming. it's really important and really cool that you advocate for that to be part of the.
Because it's a big part for me. It's like the life is the reward for working. So if I just work and I don't spend time with my family, I don't get to travel or I don't get to try out different cultures, then you're just working. There's so much to life. You have to rest so that you don't get burnout. You have to be really aware of your mental health, where it's at. And sometimes you need to take breaks. So I'm a big advocate for that, taking breaks, taking time off, because everything kind of aligns and comes together.
Yeah, yeah. Because if you're burned out, you're useless. You cannot. Not only from a company perspective, right? Like personally, you're not.
You're not going to be good for the persons in your life. You're going to be snappy. The persons that have been there for you all your life, your mother, your father, you're not going to spend time with them. And something that I've realized is as we get older, our parents are also getting older. So, and with life, there's death. So you have to be aware of that and spend time with them while they're here. Try to get stories from them, what their culture, things that have happened to them, because they too sometimes get lonely. Whenever all the children are out of the house and it's just them, trying to, take them to a nice hotel, walk with them in the evenings, try to incorporate them in your life, because they have always been a part of your life. They're kind of like your constant, regardless of different work that you may change jobs or you may change relationships. Your parents, if you do have good relationship with them, I understand not all parents are the best, but if you do have good relationships with them, try to see how best you can make them a part of your life. Your nieces, your nephews, I'm an aunt, so they love coming to stay with me because we do fun stuff together, go to the movies. I try to give them experiences that maybe their parents don't do, because parents are focused on being parents, but I can focus on being an aunt. So yeah, just try to spend time with your loved ones. That's really important.
And that's a very cool add-up and a tidbit that you mentioned there, because you get learning from them, experiences, what was their life, and things that I wish that some of my relatives were still around, like, hey, how was this on this day?
They make mistakes that you don't have to.
Yeah, and vice versa, because this is all learning and growing together. And I get that experience, at least with my dad, like, hey, Dad, the WhatsApp thing, you click here and you just see him like trying to, and it's super cool. You're teaching them, they are teaching you, and it's...
And they've been through so much change. Like, they probably, based on their age, they're probably here for example, for Jamaica, we were gained independent like 60 years ago. So based on the age of certain parents, they probably were here before Jamaica gained independence. They would have seen different persons coming to Jamaica, that history, that knowledge that you probably weren't there for. They would have seen when the internet came about, like so many different things that you can learn from and appreciate from them. But because sometimes we are become so busy with life and other things, then we don't spend that time.
At any historical point also that we new generations do not pay attention to, we didn't live, and like, nah, that's not gonna happen, war again, what again, and see where we are now.
Yeah.
It's really important that we get in touch with, like, make ourselves, everyone around us, whole, complete. And there's another point on this, on the ways of how each one of us learn. At the company, we were having some conversations, right? Like, how should we share the knowledge written on videos and many other channels. Everyone is different. Everyone has different styles of learning. And you went into that very, very well done in the talk. Could you talk a little bit more around that?
Yeah. So I mentioned that you have visual learners, you have hands-on, you have auditory learners. So in doing a session, don't just talk. Have activities, have well-timed breaks. So activities are a means for those hands-on learners to get their feet wet, try out whether the technology that you're trying to do, or maybe if it's budgeting, try to create a budget. Something that will help them to cement in their minds what the concept is. So I love activities, really great way. And then persons that are visual learners, you want to maybe have videos, you maybe want to have words on the screen that they can read. Give them some time to take notes, because that's how they are going to really remember what's happened. So you can also share articles, you can share videos, you can have courses, you can have people coming in and speak. So try to mix up the different types of trainings that you have so that you cater to a wide variety of people and the way that people learn. Because even if they don't learn from the article, if there's a video that talks about the same thing, they would probably learn from that. Or if there is a repository that they can follow or something like that, that they can practice and get hands-on. So try to cater for all different types of learners.
It's super important and eye-opening when you were talking about that. I was smiling a lot because I've had that experience several times. On my talks, I try to make it fun and all borderline ridiculous. And at times there has been people that is really serious on their way of learning and it's like, this is too much silliness. I need something.
Yeah, because everybody's different.
And I need lots of code, lots of technical writing, and you said the opposite, that you had an experience that was backwards with someone being really technical, right?
Yeah, because you can be technical, but you have to get the point across. And you also have to ensure that the code is visible on your screen. So if you're doing a technical presentation, you have to increase the font on your code editor so that persons that are in the back of the room can still see the screen. If you're giving an example, try to break down that example so that persons that may not have your experience can still understand and relate. Because sometimes we have all this knowledge in our head, but it's hard for you to get it across to the audience. So always consider who your audience is, what the knowledge that they have, because you don't want to be talking and nobody's understanding what you're saying. Because I've been to presentation and I know how to code. I've been coding for a long time, but the way that they're bringing the material across, it's really hard for me to grasp in that moment. So either they just have a lot of code on the screen, so I'm trying to read read the code while still listening to them, so I miss the point. So it's like having that balance between what's on the screen versus what you're saying.
It's and you touched a key point there on what is your audience, what are they going through, and on one hand, as you said, the learning styles, kinesthetic or auditive, visual, but as well, what context are you at? I always say, like, translate things so that your grandma would be able to understand. But do you know if your grandma was used at reading papers, listening to radio? She was a coder, she was on the punch cards, very well experienced. You don't have to explain it like a puppy or something like that. And it's really important. You may be talking to developers, you may be talking to quality people, you may be talking to C-level. You have to know your audience.
Everybody wants the information presented in a different way. Because C-levels, they're going to want to know, how does this impact the business? They don't want to maybe go through all the code. A developer or a QA will want to maybe go into the code.
Short numbers, returns, blah, right?
So you have to know what your audience is and tailor what you're saying to them.
Yeah, that's critically important. And it's a great set of information that you're bringing. I love what you did. I love how you presented it.
Thank you.
And for the people that now we're ramping down, I'm going to be respectful of your time as well. For the people that want to follow up more with you, with your company, and to find about these free trainings and people, where you come from, Jamaica? How can they find you, assist to these things, and support you? Because I think it's a great endeavor that you're doing.
Thank you. So Twitter, ailuj876, so AILUJ876. I have a blog, juliapottinger.com. Also have a YouTube channel. I need to post a bit more on that, but I have a YouTube channel as well. LinkedIn, just search for me, Julia Pottinger. Quality Works Consulting Group, you can search for them. They're on Twitter at QualityWorksCG, so you can connect with them as well.
Excellent. And as a wrap-up, what is next for you? Are you going to be presenting anymore?
Yeah, so I have a workshop tomorrow on API automation.
Not only technical, not only learning stuff, but technical stuff.
Yeah, so that should be good.
Okay, don't miss it. And if you are around here or you are tuning in, stay tuned. Watch for Julia's workshop. And Julia, above all, thank you very much for agreeing to come to sharing some time with me and the people watching. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Everyone, let's continue with this second day of PNSQC 2022, the 40th anniversary for the conference. We'll be back soon with more super interesting and awesome people like Julia. And we'll be back in a moment or so, depending on who else can I ask, find.
Okay.
All right, let's stop this. Julia, thank you very much. Now
Bye.
I need to run around and say goodbye to the people because the camera is kind of far.